it's really important. We talk to a lot of investors, and we have a mix of investments in our portfolio under contract that we share with the members of our private family office. And different members have different likes and dislikes, and we certainly don't try to talk them out of it. We try to educate them in certain ways. So there are tenants that, there are investors that like, well, I want multiple tenants instead of just one tenant. You know, doctors and dentists, they typically stay a long time. And we're going to talk about why they stay a long time. They typically stay a long time and they're not turning over, meaning no turnover. You're getting the rent paid, and that's what you want, right? But there's other factors in there about how you're going to grow revenue with the doctor. There's different type of leases where it could be very costly to you if you're not careful. So we're going to talk about that. So medical, long-term leases, due to the high cost of setting up their practices and specialized equipment, plumbing, electricity. We know some medical offices, they have to take off certain parts of the roof to get the machinery in there, right? And so they just don't up and move because of the high cost of setting up. All right, so they typically stay in a location long term and sign long term leases. In the medical industry, we talked about it can be recession resistant. Well, there's a growing demand in the medical industry. There's an aging population. The United States has a huge aging population that keeps on coming and keeps on coming. And as that aging population, as that population ages, their medical costs just go through the roof. I don't know about you, but there's something called patient familiarity. Patients feel comfortable going back to their same doctor, their same dentist, periodontist, oncology, on and on and on, eye doctor, etc. Veterinarian, that they really like. All this is in the medical space. And there's that patient familiarity. They're building their clientele over the years. So between the cost, the build out, the patient, they're growing their clientele. For them to up and move very often, X amount of miles away, 20 miles away, 40 miles away, few miles away, very costly, and it deters them.
One statistic that is key to doctors being sticky is if they move, they lose 30 to 50% of their patients. And this is doctors or dentists. So it's one of the things that make them sticky. Nobody wants to lose 30 to 50% of your clients. And if they move even a few blocks away, it's just a national statistics, not one we made up. This comes from CoStar that, and that's why that's another reason on top of all the reasons that you said on why these tend to be really sticky, whether they're 5-year leases or 20-year leases or anything in the middle, they tend to stick.
They're not doing it in the hospital. They're sending their patients to oncology. They're sending their patients to, different specialists in the area. Very often they're fairly close by a hospital. And so that we're seeing that more and more and more, and they're putting more beds. One of the things they're doing, putting more beds inside the hospital gives them more space, more revenues there, et cetera. So those adaptive spaces are very important real estate in the medical industry. Very important there. We're seeing a lot of those these days. Investing in medical office building offers, a blend of stability, long-term tenants, attractive returns that we're going to talk about, and I think we know that that medical office makes a great addition to just anybody's portfolio. Okay, so those are some of the high-level reasons why we like medical office. The tenants are sticky, their clients are there, expensive build out with plumbing, electrical, the equipment, and the stability of insurance paying, the growing need, the hospitals going into adaptive space. And really, it's about consistent returns. Some people are out there and they're like, I want to hire cash on cash, for instance. I need, double digits right now with the interest rates. And you can find those. You can find those. But often there's a risk. There's a risk in the tenants. They could perceive to be moved. There's a risk potentially in short-term leases. And, in 3 years and 4 years, X amount of those tenants, their lease is up. So you can get that with taking higher risk. We typically don't advise it, and we typically don't put those under contract. What we like to mitigate risk. We'll take a little bit less on the cash on cash returns to have a consistent tenant that is reliable. All right, that we've got nothing to worry about, so to speak. All right, we got less to worry about why our clients or us go back to doing what they do that generates their revenue. Typically the doctors, the dentists, the professionals that are on this call, the entrepreneurs that are on this call. That is where you make your biggest revenue. And, right now, one of the things that we brought up at the event is a lot of you out there, and rightly so, we've all done it. You've traded your time for money. How do you maintain that consistency that you're going to get on those returns? Okay. The leases, ladies and gentlemen, just because you find a medical office, all right, and potentially maybe you found a medical office with the doctor's been there for a while. Great. There's different type of leases out there, especially in the medical world, that having a different lease can really cut into your profits and totally wipe them out for a year or longer. So let's talk about those things real quick before we get into showing you what a great investment opportunity looks like for us. Tony, anything you want to add in, or Tom, anything before we continue?
There is a question from one of our viewers. They want us to, they're not sure if commercial real estate investment can offset active income. He is a W-2 dentist.
What's that person's name, Tony?
Rashid.
Rashid, it's hard for us to tell on this webinar. We have a former CPA as part of our team. We don't act as anybody's CPA because there's so many details. I'll tell you this. It's Rashid, Tony?
Yes.
Yeah, Rashid. I'll tell you this, Rashid. I'm not going to take a stab at it. Some dentists do, depending on their investment portfolio. Some dentists do as their spouse files for professional real estate status and can qualify without risk. But I will say that, one of the benefits of working with us is we have expert resources when it comes to commercial real estate investing. And there is an expert CPA firm that specializes in real estate investing. And they're national, they're excellent. They have some ways without high risk. We don't put anybody in those situations when we vet who we work with. But there are some ways where potentially, depending on your situation, if you own your practice, etc., you have some other businesses or not, where there's some trusts that they can create, and that active W-2 income, you put it into the trust. Thus, that active income actually, once it goes into the trust, becomes passive income, and then you can offset the passive income with the real estate investment in a passive way. But without knowing a lot, I can't answer that. But we can put you in touch with this person. So if you want, you can either scan the QR code, you can make an appointment with one of our associates, and we can get you that information. We're happy to help. However, I'll say this: whether you're going to offset your active income, which I know a lot of people like, or your passive income, this investment, other real estate investments, etc., you're going to get a great tax benefit. You're just, it's just a matter of timing there. So it's a great way to help you grow your wealth. So with that being said, let's talk about, okay, so I find a medical investment. I like the cap rate. The person's been there a long time. Maybe it's a long lease in place, right? Great. All those things are great. Where you can get hurt, what you need to know about are the type of leases. Okay. So I'm not going to make it a high educational, get too far in the weeds.